The mop handle hit the floor at 6:47 in the morning. Not a crash, a tap. The sound a tired man makes when he leans a tool against the wall and gives his right shoulder a moment's rest. The kind of sound that everyone in the hallway of the Fort Bragg Officers Club hears and immediately forgets, because men like Earl Giddens are designed to be forgotten. Designed to disappear into the background hum of a building the way a ceiling fan disappears once your eyes adjust to the room. He was 61 years old, with a face the color and texture of old saddle leather, and he wore a gray custodial uniform with his name stitched in blue thread above the left breast pocket. Earl, just Earl, no rank, no title. The kind of name that belongs on a mailbox in a quiet county, not on anything history would bother to record. He picked the mop handle back up and kept moving. The water in his bucket smelled of pine and something faintly chemical, the way all institutional floors smell at that hour, before the coffee and the brass and the noise arrive to cover it. He was working the east corridor, pushing the mop in slow figure eights, the way he had done every Tuesday and Thursday morning for the past 4 years. The floors here were linoleum, buff-colored, scuffed near the doorways where boot heels caught the edge coming in fast. Earl knew every scuff mark by memory. He knew which radiator clicked twice before it caught heat, which fluorescent light in the men's room hummed a half-step flat. He had mapped this building the way he had once mapped other places, quietly, completely, without being asked. There was something in his left breast pocket, small, rectangular, the outline barely visible through the fabric. He did not touch it. He never touched it here. The banquet room doors at the end of the corridor opened at 7:15, and the voices spilled out ahead of the men, the particular kind of voices that fill a room before the bodies do. Loud, clipped, assured, the sound of rank worn like cologne. Earl heard them and did not look up. He moved his bucket closer to the wall, giving the corridor its width, making himself smaller in the way that small men learn to do when large authority sweeps past. Colonel Marcus Hale came through the doors first. He was 43, with the build of a man who still ran 5 miles every morning and wanted you to know it. His dress uniform was immaculate, every ribbon and device placed with the precision of a man who understood that appearance was its own argument. He had commissioned out of West Point, been fast-tracked through 3 combat tours in Afghanistan, and was currently assigned to 1st Airborne Corps as a senior operations officer. He was, by every institutional measure, a success. The kind of success that sometimes stops being aware of the space it takes up. Behind him came 2 junior officers, captains, both of them, and a civilian contractor in a blue blazer who was laughing at something Hale had said before the doors opened, the kind of laugh that wants to be noticed. Hale's eyes moved across the corridor and found Earl the way you find a piece of furniture, a brief assessment, a registration without curiosity. "Give us a few minutes here, guy." He gestured loosely at the corridor without looking directly at Earl. "We need the hallway clear." Earl nodded once and reached for his bucket. Actually, one of the captains, the younger one, Davis, on his nameplate, caught something and stopped. He was looking at Earl's hands. "Hold on, sir." He said it to Hale, not to Earl. "You see that?" Earl's right hand was on the mop handle. The knuckles were thick, slightly misaligned. The ring finger on his right hand was shorter than it should have been, the last joint absent. The skin there smooth and old and long-healed. And along the inner forearm, visible where his sleeve had pushed up from the work, there was a tattoo. Small, faded to the blue-gray of old bruises. A skull with a parachute canopy. A number beneath it. A unit designation that any serious student of special operations would have recognized immediately. Davis recognized it. He didn't say anything yet. He just looked. Hale glanced at Earl's arm and then at Davis. "What?" "I've seen that before, sir. That tat." Hale's expression moved somewhere between mild interest and the particular condescension of a man who has decided in advance that nothing surprising is coming. He looked at Earl fully for the first time. "You were in?" Earl had gone still the way water goes still. "Yes, sir." "What branch?" "Army, sir." "Unit?" A pause. The corridor held it. "Airborne," Earl said. Just that. Hale smiled. It was a generous smile, the kind dispensed as charity. "Airborne." He said it the way you'd repeat a child's drawing of a horse. "Good for you. What years?" "87 through 2009. The civilian in the blue blazer stopped smiling. 22 years. He did the math without wanting to. "Long time," Hale said. He seemed to have made a decision about the direction of this moment, the way men of his type make decisions, fast, top-down, assured of the outcome. He turned slightly toward his captains, the way a man turns toward his audience before delivering a line. "Tell you what, old-timer, since you were airborne." He let the pause work for him. "What was your call sign?" The corridor had gone quiet enough that the radiator at the far end clicked twice before it caught. Earl's hands were still on the mop handle. His eyes were level, focused somewhere in the middle distance, the way a man's eyes get when he is looking at something none of the other people in the room can see. He did not answer immediately. He turned the mop handle once in his grip, not nervously, the way you fidget, but the way you shift a tool to a different position when you have decided to set it down. He set it down. "Sir?" A different register in his voice now, not louder, denser. "You sure you want that answer?" The civilian laughed. A single note, quickly swallowed when Hale's face tightened. "I asked a simple question." Hale's voice dropped a degree, the way temperature drops when a door opens in winter. He was enjoying this still, but something at the edge of the enjoyment had started to feel different to him, and he was not quite sure why. "Your call sign. What was it?" Earl looked at Colonel Marcus Hale for a long moment. Something moved behind his eyes, old and deep and not angry, which was somehow more unsettling than anger would have been. He reached into his left breast pocket. The object was not large. A laminated card, government-issued military ID format, the kind that even retired personnel carry for base access. He held it out, face up in one hand. Hale took it, read it. The color change in his face happened slowly, starting at the jaw. Davis leaned in. His breath stopped audibly. The ID read, "Giddens, Earl T., E9, U.S. Army, RET. Command Sergeant Major." But it was the line below the name and rank that did the work. A single line, typed in the clipped language of official records. Additional qualifications: Special Forces, 1st SFOD Delta, SEAG, Authorized Attachment, Joint Special Operations Command. And beneath that, in a field most military IDs leave empty, a note that had been added at retirement and never removed because someone in the records office had decided it should stay. Call sign: Reaper Actual. The radiator at the end of the corridor clicked again. Hale's hand had stopped moving. He was holding the card as though it had changed temperature. Reaper Actual. Any officer who had spent more than 6 months near JSOC during the height of operations in Iraq and Afghanistan knew that call sign. Not from introductions. Those people did not introduce themselves. Not by that name. Not in most rooms. You knew it from briefings. From after-action reports with the unit names redacted but the call sign remaining because the call sign was how the air assets coordinated, how the QRF knew who was commanding the ground element, how the reports filed at Bagram and Balad and a dozen other places nobody said out loud referred to a man who had led direct action operations that the Army officially could not confirm had occurred at all. Reaper Actual. The call sign attached to 41 confirmed operations over 11 years. The call sign associated with a Navy Cross that had been awarded in a ceremony so classified that the citation remained partially redacted in the public record to this day. Colonel Marcus Hale had read that citation in a staff college seminar, as an example. He had read it out loud, he remembered, while discussing leadership under fire. He had talked about the unidentified sergeant major who had, under direct enemy contact and with 3 men critically wounded, reorganized a pinned element, called in suppressing fire within danger-close parameters, and carried a junior officer 240 meters to a casualty collection point before collapsing from a gunshot wound he had not reported because reporting it would have required him to relinquish command. Hale had used that story as a teaching example.